Hi, Kelly. Thanks for joining me.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
So today we are talking about grief and probably death in particular, but there are many things to grieve over. You recently had a difficult experience. You want to talk a bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So on, I don't know, it was a couple days after Thanksgiving. I woke up in the morning and, just casually pulled up my phone to check all the notifications and all the things. And I stumbled upon a post that completely caught me off guard. It was one of my friend's moms who had posted saying that her son suddenly passed away. And I was in complete shock. Like it just totally, I was like, is this a real post? Is this fake? She has 2 accounts. Like what's happening? The initial slew of emotions that we go through. Like, first of all, is this even real? Second of all, what in the world happened? This was actually one of my really good friends. Actually, he was my high school sweetheart. We dated in high school for a few years. It didn't work out romantically, but we stayed friends for the last 25 years. And the last time I saw him was in May. I was in California for work, and we met up and had dinner and hung out. And, we've been very close friends for the last 25 years. So to wake up one morning and find out that someone is suddenly gone was pretty crazy. It turns out it was like a hiking accident. And so, he wasn't sick or anything like that. So it was very sudden and unexpected. And that was definitely a whirlwind. It's definitely always a wake-up call for me when stuff like that happens. It's such a good reminder of how precious life really is and how none of us are guaranteed tomorrow. We don't know when our last day on this earth will be. And that was a hard one for sure. But there's been lots and lots of lessons since then. And he still continues to show up in different ways. And that's a whole bunch of other stuff. But yeah, lots of grieving for sure.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that we tend to do is to try to make meaning out of it and to be like, well, what was going on in his life that it needed to end like that? And trying to come up with a lot of stories because we just aren't great with endings.
Oh, it's hard. The acceptance part is hard, but it was also beautiful. And I know maybe that sounds weird, but I got to go to his memorial in San Diego that his sister, who I'm very close with, set up with his 2 best friends. And it was the most beautiful memorial I've ever been to. And it's sad that it takes stuff like this to bring people together, but just being able to see all the people whose lives he touched was like, okay, I get it. Like this person played a very important role. And even though, he was only 40 years old, which is super freaking young, he lived his life like every day was the last. He didn't follow normal rules or, like social norms. Like he lived life on his terms. So that definitely felt like a big lesson to all of us to like, he was an example of somebody who probably did everything that they wanted to do and then some.
Wow. So, yeah. That's inspiring. And you would have a cynic who might say, well, maybe because he lived his life like that, it ended so early, So, but what are some examples of living life on his own terms, not necessarily following all the norms?
Yeah, I mean, like he didn't go to college, he didn't get married, he didn't have kids, he didn't follow any of the things that you're told that you're supposed to do, he did what he wanted to do. He was in bands and he traveled and he saw the world. And, in his last few years, he started to do a lot of like really deep healing work for himself. And I got to watch him blossom into this beautiful version of himself that was just so cool to witness. And be a part of, and just celebrating that, because that's hard stuff that some people just never even get to. And it was important to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is, It's so interesting because I'm finding myself right now trying to like come up with a story, about it. Well, maybe he, learned whatever lesson that his soul wanted to learn in this lifetime, and he's starting his next one, or, it's just really interesting how the urge to make a story about it just won't go. Like,
yeah. I can see that. Yes. And I'm so, so, so grateful that like, this is not my first experience in losing someone very close to me. So for me, I mean, it's just kind of been a whole relearning of how to deal with this, because I wasn't taught this as a kid. My parents didn't teach me how to grieve. They didn't grieve in front of me. They didn't, make that something normal. So for me, like as an adult, like figuring out what that looks like differently, not only for me, but also to like show my kids something different. Like my kids know what grief looks like because they've seen mommy bawling her eyes out, and I tell them exactly why, because I want them to know that it's important to like feel those emotions, let them out. Like, for 2 days after my best friend passed, I was in my bedroom and my kids knew exactly why, because there was no need for me to hide that. I want them to know that's normal. It's part of the process. This is how we get through it, is going through it. So I don't know. It's just been cool to try and show them a different way than what I was shown as a kid, which was stuff your feelings. You don't talk about it. Nobody talks about it, which is crazy. I'm really grateful I get to do it differently.
Yeah, all of the experiences that I've had with loss of people close to me was to have a memorial, and then we drink heavily after and eat, and you end up dancing and kind of celebrating the person's memory, but it's also a way of putting them out of your mind as soon as possible. And definitely it was not really acceptable to show the tears and the like, oh, okay, that's appropriate during the funeral. Don't overdo it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't take too long with that. And
there's no timeline. No timeline.
Right. So how did you learn how to grieve a different way? Were you exposed to other cultures and the ways that they do it, or?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I like that. Thank you. Honestly, and this is something that I share freely because it's not like a secret for me, but I don't know if you've ever heard of Al-Anon, but that's okay. Most people haven't. So it's a 12-step program for friends and families of alcoholics. And it's, in another word, it's the best free therapy I've ever found. But I've been attending meetings for about 11 years now. And 11 years ago, when I walked into those rooms and started attending these meetings, I suddenly found a place where there was a group of people that like understood me, accepted me, didn't judge me, didn't try and fix me, didn't give me advice. And I was so confused, and they were laughing in there, and they all had issues and problems, but they were like getting through life okay, right? So some of the people that I became very, very close to in those rooms demonstrated what like real vulnerability and authenticity looked like, and like sharing some really personal stuff that I'm like, my family never talks about this kind of stuff, even though it happened, right? Nobody talked about it. And here are these people sitting in a room full of strangers telling their deepest, darkest secrets, and no one's judging them, and everyone's accepting them, and no one's trying to fix them. They're just listening. And it was this crazy shift in me of like, these are my people. This is where I belong. And I ended up getting a sponsor, and I got very, very close with this lady. And, there's a part in the process where you tell everybody like all of your bad stuff, if you will, which really, it's neither good or bad. It just is. But you tell them all of your things. And then after you're done, like there's this expectation of like maybe them looking at you differently or thinking of you differently. And I remember with my first sponsor, I told her all of my things. And then when I was done, she was like, okay, what's next? And I was like, what? And it was this crazy acceptance So when she passed away, she was the first person really close to me that I lost. I was surrounded by people who held me and who walked through it with me and who showed me what it looked like to grieve, however you need to grieve. They're like, Kelly, unfortunately, grief is the price tag of love. When you love somebody and you lose them, you're going to feel it deep. And they demonstrated what it looked like to grieve healthily and showed me how to do it. And thankfully, I had those people to show me that, because the next day after she passed, we actually lost someone else really close to our family who my kids call uncle. And so at the same time of my grief, I'm having to help my kids grieve. And it couldn't have been in any better way than, being surrounded by people showing me how I could do it for myself, and then also showing up for my kids. Because there's no timeline. There's no, you must be done crying in 2 weeks. If you're crying for months on and off, it's fine. Years, it's fine. That's normal. That means you cared. It's okay. But ignoring it doesn't make it go away. So
yeah,
definitely feeling it's important.
Yeah, I lost my sister, and the bereavement period at work is 5 days. And
ridiculous.
So you're just like, okay. And, I was a corporate controller. So I managed a team, in the accounting department. So everything's very high pressure and it's got to be perfect. And there's not a lot of room for mistakes. And I really didn't know how to grieve. And I found years later, even now, as I'm doing more of my deep healing work, there's stuff coming up about her death and my relationship with her. And I went through a lot of self-blame because of our communication kind of right before. And it was a couple weeks before, but I made extra meaning out of our texts back and forth. And then I was going through some of the grieving recently, and I asked a question, and then it led me through scrolling through her Facebook page and seeing that she had a friend who she had considered a best friend who had died the week before she died. And how she didn't know how to handle her feelings about it. And so it just pointed out to me that I had made up this story where I was this villain that caused her to die, which she didn't even kill herself, but it was just, and so self-centered too, a bit of narcissism in there. Oh, I'm so important. And this is my fault. I think sometimes when we tell ourselves those types of stories, there is an element of, oh, I'm the center of my own universe, right? And so it's really, really great to kind of deconstruct our stories and realize that while we might be creating our own reality, there's co-creation happening all the time, and everybody is the center of their own story.
Yes, for sure. For sure. And I always find it interesting how much we learn about somebody after they pass away. That always blows my mind. I'm like, I didn't know that or this. It's always interesting.
That's so true, because we're not really comfortable telling each other how we actually feel about each other. There's a concept of oversharing, like you were talking about, these people talking about their deepest, darkest secrets to strangers. And so often you'll have someone say something in a group setting, and you'll have one person who's like, okay, oversharing. And everybody, just because they're uncomfortable, just because it's triggering something in them that they haven't healed or dealt with, or that they've been shamed for or told is wrong to express or feel. So
yes,
I think we have a lot of learning to do in our culture about what is propriety. I mean, so much of our humanity we're cut off from it.
Yeah.
Because of the standards of behavior that trying to make everybody comfortable. all the time.
Which really doesn't do anyone any good.
It actually doesn't make us more comfortable. It actually
Right.
makes us all feel really uncomfortable and disconnected because
Yes.
we
I
have
agree.
so many struggles, so many similarities in what we're dealing with all the time. And to not speak about them, it just doesn't make much sense.
No, it doesn't. We're learning slowly.
Yes.
Very, very slowly.
Yeah, it's really good to demonstrate this for our kids too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
There was a kind of a moment where I had a repressed memory just come up randomly, and my kids were there, and so I was just like crying on the couch and couldn't explain it because it was not something that generally we talk about with our kids, and they were just frozen. My ex-husband was just kind of looking at me like she's crazy, didn't know what to do either. And I think that was probably the first time they saw me really cry. And so trying to explain it after the fact without divulging all of the details, because it was pretty just not something they're ready for the detail of. They just felt so much more settled that I didn't pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. I also find it interesting to watch, like, I guess maybe most recently, like with my mom. So my stepdad passed away two years ago, and I was also very close to him, and obviously that was my mom's husband. But watching her grieving process, and watching how it's kind of shifted and changed over the last 2 years after she sees what me and my husband and our kids do, I think we've actually influenced her a little bit, to the point of where she, we went to his gravesite on year 1 of his anniversary with me and my husband and the kids. And we did a whole little ritual at the cemetery and honoring him in a way that we felt was, true to him. And my mom was not ready to go the first year. And I totally respected that, but also recognized that that's her pattern. She avoids the hard things, right? And then this past year, just last month, when we were in Michigan again, and it was the 2nd anniversary of his passing, she actually asked me, she said, "You guys going to the gravesite again?" I said, "We sure are." She said, "Can I come with you?" And I was like, "Yes, but who are you?" Like, what have you done with my mom? But it was so cool to have her come with us and to have her be a part of it. And, I could tell that the kids were a little bit nervous because they didn't know how she would, be, but we also kind of prepped them ahead of time and said, "Hey, this is a day that we want to show up for her, and however she needs to let out her emotions, we want to support that, because this is hard and she's doing things differently at a much older age, in life." And I'm so grateful to have such amazing kids that just soak it all up and follow our lead. And, she, I think, felt safe enough with us to let out some of her feelings in front of the kids. And I was so proud of her because she never did that when I was growing up. And I don't know. There's a lot of times where I like have no expectations for my parents. I'm like, they're old, they're probably set in their ways, and then they changed. I'm like, what just happened? But it's beautiful. So that was really cool to witness too and be a part of.
Yeah, and that's one of the gifts of our children. Like, they're teaching me more than I'm teaching them, I think, much of the time.
1,000%. Yes, I agree. They don't know it yet, but they are.
Yes, and it's interesting to think about too, like the way that we were raised. If our parents felt so much shame if they were learning something from us that they would call it disrespect. Whereas now we're like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the reason that you are in my life as my child is because I have these lessons to learn and experiences to have.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool that you explained to your kids that we're going to let her have her emotions in whatever way that she needs to have them.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want them to feel pressure to have to try and like cheer her up or fix it, like just allow it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what is happening so much of the time in coaching and therapy, just giving the space to listen and to be able to have the expression instead of fixing. And I think a lot of times when people go into therapy and coaching, they are looking for a solution, and they're probably taken aback a little when their coach isn't jumping into fixing.
Nope. Not their job. Not their job.
Right.
I love that. I love that. What have you found to be like the most, I don't know, therapeutic for you when it comes to grieving?
It's just making the space available to myself. That's the stage I'm in because I was so emotionally repressed growing up that just feeling my emotions is like new to me. I'm okay with other people feeling their emotions, but for a while, for most of my life, people expressing anger terrified me. And so many of our emotions are expressed similarly, like felt in the body similarly, similar sensations such as like heat rushing through the body, shaking, crying. That could cover a wide range of emotions from ecstasy to grief to rage to, just releasing. So it's really interesting to just give myself the space to sit with myself, allow the feelings to happen, to move through my body. Expressing emotion in front of other people is still very much a challenge for me.
Yeah, I get that. I get that too. For sure. I think, was it 11 years ago when I first started working with my sponsor, I remember we would have these conversations where, because I just shut down probably a lot of my emotions, like younger, because it was, too much to deal with. And when I first started working with my sponsor and she'd ask me like, how are you? And I'd be like, I'm fine. She's like, yeah, that's not a feeling, Kelly. And she ended up printing out this thing of like all the feeling words, and she gave it to me, and she'd make me call her once a day, and she'd just say, how are you feeling? And I'd have to pick a word off the list. And then she'd go, okay, talk to you later. Bye. She just wanted me to get comfortable with like identifying my feelings, naming them, saying it out loud, and like, just reconnecting, I think, with them, because I had shut down so much of that too. I didn't even know how I was feeling. Okay isn't a feeling. And I learned that.
Yeah, that is the most common answer. Fine, good, okay. And if we had our great grandparents listening to this conversation, they'd be like, what? Nobody cares about your feelings, right? Because that's how it was back then, because they were still so much in survival mode. And we, have the privilege now in modern times to actually attempt to thrive. But we are so conditioned and still in the pattern of just surviving. And so if you are trying to get to a place of thriving, feeling your emotions and being able to express them is like one of the basic requirements. So getting comfortable with that is
necessary.
Yes.
I would agree.
Yeah.
For sure.
And being witnessed in it it's a major component to healing.
It's also super intimidating.
It is. But the funny thing is, once you do it, it doesn't really feel like that big of a deal anymore. It's like, it's just funny how much buildup and energy we hold by, resisting things.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we just let it go and do it, it's like, wow, that was taking up so much of my life force energy and the space.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
now I have energy to put toward actually making my life better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So you talked about a ritual that you did at the gravesite. So what are some of the rituals that you might go through or that your kids come up with? Or
Yeah, that's a great one. So we tried to keep it pretty simple because it was Michigan in December, so it was cold outside in the cemetery. But we did go, find his actual plot where it was at. We all gathered around and we all just shared like either our favorite memory of him, or things that we think he would be most proud of since he passed. And some of my kids didn't get the chance to meet him because I'm a blended family now. So 3 out of the 6 hadn't met him yet. So they just kind of had to share something else. But we all just went around and shared something like that. I think we said a little prayer and then just kind of said, like paying respect to him as one of our ancestors now who does look out for, I know he's looking out for me and my kids for sure. And definitely my mom, just thanking him for, all the ways he continues to show up, even though he's not here. And, close it out and then listen to all of his favorite songs in the car on the drive back. That was just an example of like a simple thing that, we did with the kids, nothing too crazy or too intense, but it seemed to make everybody feel included. And, it makes a hard situation a little bit more enjoyable because you're at least doing it with people that are also sad at the same time. But yeah, it just depends. I don't know. I did a really intense ritual for a different grieving process, and that looked a lot differently. We don't have to get into that one if we don't want to. Maybe.
Yeah, I like all the stuff.
Like maybe that's me avoiding it. But so the one that was probably the most difficult for me was one I definitely avoided for a very long time. So about 8 years ago, when my daughter was 1, I got pregnant unexpectedly. And I knew it wasn't the right time. And I was like, I'm already raising a 1-year-old by myself. Like, there's no way I can bring another child into this world. So I did have an abortion. And I kind of stuffed that. And by kind of, I mean totally. I mean, I just pretended like it never happened. I didn't talk about it. I didn't even tell some of my close friends. I think I even said like I had a miscarriage. I lied, because I was so ashamed of it. And then fast forward, to 5 years later, I meet my husband and I share this with him. And he's like, yeah, we need to process that. You need to do a ritual. Like you have to acknowledge that because it's not going to go anywhere. And I was like, oh, you might be right. And then finally this past October, I kind of did like it was August. I'm sorry. This past August, I did a calculation to kind of figure out like around what time I got pregnant 8 years ago. And I printed out the ultrasound because I still had that. And I rearranged my whole altar in my bedroom, kind of made that like the focal point, got a single candle that was for said baby and lit my candle every single night for the, 7-8 weeks that I was pregnant, and felt like that was an actual way to honor that soul that didn't get a chance to come this time. And that was hard because there were some nights where I'd light the candle, we'd, have some music, say some prayers, and I just bawl, but I had to because I was trapped for so long. And then one night I had another girlfriend over, and turns out she also had an abortion. So she sat down with me and we talked about that. And it just helped me not feel like as alone, in the situation. And actually my oldest daughter, who's 15, got to be present for that conversation. So that was really cool to include her in that. But yeah, every night for the 7, almost 8 weeks, we lit the candle for said baby. And it really felt healing for me to actually acknowledge that was a part of my life, and there's a lot of grief there, and I don't have to be ashamed of it, and I can forgive myself, and I can still love myself, and I feel like I've made amends to that soul, you know? So that was a big one.
Yeah, that's a really good one. There are so many women who have tried to pretend that that didn't happen in their lives, and the way that it affects the rest of the way you show up in the world, I mean, it can't be overstated. It's not nothing. It did happen, and it's so important to. I have a friend who went through that and just still has nightmares and grieves about it, and just doesn't, because she felt like it was the bad, wrong choice. Just the guilt is just overwhelming.
Yeah. It's hard.
It is. I had a miscarriage, but I was like 5 weeks pregnant, and it felt a little bit like an abortion though, because the doctor had said, "Oh, it's not growing anymore, and it's better for you to just take this pill and end it so that it doesn't like stay there and we have to scrape it out." And knowing what I know now, I'm like, my body would have just
Naturally.
when it was ready and when it was time. And so it was a very weird thing. I had to take days off work to take this pill and do this process, and it didn't feel natural. I had questions about what if the doctor was wrong, and it was just really strange the way that women's medical care is handled.
Oh, don't even get me started. That's a whole nother can of worms.
Yes.
For sure. That would be really hard, especially not ever really knowing, were they right?
Yeah. So in breath work, one of our breath work sessions in Fit for Service, that came up, and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that was a thing. And I mean, I always knew that there was a question in the back of my mind, but I didn't think I had any grief to process or
still a loss. Still a loss.
Yeah. Even though it was so early, like it was very hardly developed. I mean, I guess like she didn't find the heartbeat, and that's how she knew. So yeah, interesting how we, can be told that, well, that doesn't really count. Like that thing, that was pretty small. That shouldn't make you feel any kind of way.
No. No. Nope. But there's not enough support out there to help people get through those things. It just doesn't exist yet.
It doesn't. And that's why it's so important that we're teaching ourselves and our kids to handle it on their own, and to find relationships where how they're feeling is valued and it matters. And like, the humanity, the feelings, the experiences is the part of life that matters, not their productivity and how they look.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I would agree.
Yeah. Do you have any other examples of, I mean, let's talk about grief at the end of a relationship.
Ooh. Yeah. That's always tricky because every relationship's different, right? And so if you chose the ending, there's grief. If you didn't choose the ending, there's still grief. And sometimes it doesn't feel like there's ever really closure either. I know that with my relationship prior to my current marriage, I was engaged, and the way that that ended, there was not a lot of closure and, lots of unanswered questions. And he had gotten very, very close to my daughter, and all of a sudden one day he's gone, and I have to explain to her why she's gone, but telling her it's not her fault. And she's, 5 at the time, so she's not really getting it. And, that was heartbreaking on top of what I was already feeling. Like, I was upset that she was upset because, I didn't want her to think it was anything she did that caused the relationship to end. But also just, finding acceptance in that too. Thankfully, I've had a couple relationships in my time to where I've come to realize that every single relationship has taught me something, and I have gotten really great gifts from different people that I've been with, but they weren't all meant to be my forever person. So that's helped so much with acceptance and like allowing myself though to feel those upset feelings is like completely necessary. Or I feel like you don't ever really like cut that tie or let go of that person if you don't like allow it to be felt. So I don't know, I do some weird things sometimes, but there's been things that have worked for me is like going through like pictures. I love photos. I take 1.5 bajillion photos. I feel like I should do that as a side business, maybe. I don't know. But I love pictures. And so for me, when I want to like really feel all the feelings or the full spectrum of feelings, just going through my photo album sometimes at the end of a relationship was helpful, and just seeing like, oh, we did a lot of cool stuff together, even though it didn't work out. Like, there was still a lot of really wonderful gifts from that relationship, and there were hard things, but I got through them. I survived. I'm okay. Better now, actually. So lots of gratitude, and focusing on that gratitude always helps with the grief.
Yeah. And you're pointing out something that a lot of people don't want to do at the end of a relationship when they're feeling angry that it ended, which is to feel the full spectrum of the emotions, the good times that were had. And we want to vilify somebody so that we can be right in our decision and we can defend ourselves. It's really interesting the way that friends and family want to get involved in the decision, and they want to know all the details, and they think it's their right to know. It's very strange. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really, I think, just a habit of looking for drama. Like, drama's great on TV, but when two people are going through a breakup and they have children, not the best time to look for that. Not the best time to dig in and try to rescue the relationship or make somebody right and somebody wrong. Like, it's what I noticed in dissolving my marriage was that it was incredibly threatening to a lot of the other couples around us.
Interesting.
And yeah, they, I think because we have kids, and because of their prior experiences with their parents' divorces, they projected all of what had happened to them onto us and to our kids. And so there was like, my mom had 2 pretty unhealthy divorces, and my siblings, namely my sisters, were just trying to tell me that was going to happen to me, even though they had both been divorced and they were okay with their divorces. But they had decided that my life was perfect and that I was some kind of model to the world or them, and that now I was destroying my children's lives by breaking up with their father. And the amount of energy that I wasted trying to explain to them that I was messing my kids up by staying with him, they couldn't understand it, yet they had both made that choice before.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Whew.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Lots of fun.
That would be intense. That would be very intense.
And, you know, trying to feel my feelings and then like hold space for theirs when they weren't even trying to resolve theirs. They were just trying to feel super angry and dump it on me and make me a villain. I had to just stop speaking to them because it just had become so.
That's when boundaries become very important.
Yes. Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah. So having community that can handle these kinds of things consciously is so important. Just because someone is in our family doesn't mean we owe them an explanation, and it doesn't mean that we have to include them in the processing of our grief.
Or the details if you don't want to.
Yeah. Yeah. This feeling among family members of you owe me an explanation, you owe me something. I actually felt that I was treated like a teenage girl in the whole thing. And because of their fear and their worry about me being okay, it was like, you've completely forgotten all that I have achieved in life. And you're looking at me like I'm, you know, your little girl, your little sister when we were children.
Yeah.
And it was just incredible to watch.
Well, and it says a lot more about them and where they were at than it actually does about you.
Yeah. Well, it also showed me how I had allowed them to treat me that way in many other micro situations before that, and how I allowed them to make that identity for me. I was calling it in essentially by feeling not having enough self-love to feel capable and to show that to the world. Then what was being mirrored back to me was that I didn't feel capable, and so I wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. So it was like having to shift my own energy and just taking the ownership of, I am doing this to myself because of the way that I'm talking to myself every day. It's so strange how people pick up on that stuff and mirror it back to you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Oh, families of origin. Whew. Yeah. So grateful to have chosen family. That's all I'll say about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, it makes it so much better to go through these major transitions when that is available to us.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think I found a lot right at the right time.
That's usually when we do, right when we need it the most.
So when you and Hans got together, both of you have 3 kids.
Yeah.
I'm so interested in like how that developed and like how you're managing the blending of the families, and were there major differences between the ways that you raised your kids, or, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm super, and this maybe sounds weird because maybe most kids don't say this, but I'm grateful that I came from a blended family. My parents got divorced when I was 16 and they both remarried. And so I got to see what that can look like. And, you know, of course, at first it wasn't easy. But eventually my parents got to a place where they would all be at the same place at the same time for us, for me and my brother. And so that was modeled to me. And so, you know, when I, you know, met Hans and he had 3 kids and I had 3 kids, and, you know, you have to be very, very careful, obviously, because with kids involved, it can get very tricky. But once we were sure, that we were going to continue on this path, and we did start introducing the kids to each other, I'm not going to lie to you, we got super lucky. Bless all of them, because they could have made it very challenging and difficult, and it could have completely blown up in our face, but they're all in the same age range. I have a 9-year-old, he has a 9-year-old, he has an 11-year-old, I have a 13-year-old, and we both have 2 15-year-olds. And like, it sounds Brady Bunchish almost. 3 boys, 3 girls. Like, you can't plan it. Okay. This wasn't planned. It's not a coincidence either. But we were very, very fortunate that they got along fairly well from the get-go. And yeah, of course they have their sibling spats and whatnot. But for the most part, they genuinely like being around each other. On weekends is usually when we have the most of them, but it can range anywhere from 1 to 6 kids at our house. Because we usually get my youngest every night, because her dad works overnights. And then we always get his on the weekends. So it's fun. I didn't grow up in a big family, but Hans did. He's one of 8. So he loves the chaos, and it's very normal to him. It's not to me, but I love kids so much that like, it just fills my heart with joy, and getting to choose to love children that I didn't bring into this world has been amazing. Cause I'm like, thank you. You birthed them for me, and I'm going to help raise them. And because my stepdad and stepmom have been such wonderful people, like, I know what it looks like to feel chosen. And I think that's amazing. And I want to pass that on, because it's a really cool gift to give to a kid, to choose to unconditionally love them. No matter what you do, you might make me upset, you might make me angry, but I'm still going to be here. I'm still going to love you, and I'm still going to be your parent. Like, that's the coolest gift I think I ever got. So passing that on is an honor for sure.
Wow, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, often step-parents just tolerate.
Yeah, we don't like the term step parents. We say bonus parents, because step parents has that negative connotation that I'm like, oh, I don't want to be the stepmom.
Yeah.
We say bonus parents because you're an extra parent.
Well, that's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's actually pretty, the way that we do families in Western culture, for people, living in a house by themselves, it's just never been the way that it's really not the best way to raise children. We're pretending that there aren't other people involved, and it doesn't take an entire community, but the teachers and the daycares and they need all of those adults and all their different perspectives. And I think we can be so fearful of the influence that other adults might have on our kids.
Yeah.
Which is really great about, chosen family.
Yeah. Well, and it feels like, sorry to interrupt, it feels like tribal parenting. Like, there's, how many households between all of our kids, which I know can be hard on them to do the whole back and forth, but it's also so nice to like, get a break sometimes, and then get them back and feel refreshed, and it's like, we're all in this together, and it's not always easy. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to it is sometimes very challenging, but if we keep our focus on the kids, I've found that it always goes better when it's like, I'm not going to focus on the silly things my ex does that annoys me. I'm going to focus on, he's being a great dad to my daughter and my other 2 kids. Like, I should just focus on that. Right. Instead of the little nitty gritty things that really don't matter in the big scheme of things. So keeping the focus on the kids has really helped. And just, feeling like we're part of a tribe sometimes, because it's like almost comical. Like, okay, where are we going? Are we all taking one car? Because we're going to like all load in. But it's fun. It's fun. It's definitely worth it.
And kind of, some of, in a situation where there's not a parent that is abusive, but like letting go of the way the other parents and just owning your own can be really, some people just can't do that.
It's hard. But it's also not worth it to stress over those things, because we can't control anyone but ourselves.
Right. And, if we think about the beauty of each child's soul and what they chose to come here and learn and experience, it can make it easier to let go of that and to be like, okay, well, this is what you signed up for, and all I can do is be here and support you and, hold the space and listen.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So is there a lot of listening in your household with that many people?
Yeah, sometimes. But it's also nice to feel like, I don't know, sometimes, like the other day, my oldest, who's a 15-year-old girl, she had been on vacation with dad for 2 weeks, and they were finally getting back from vacation. She's like, can I please just come over? I just need a break from him. And I was like, of course, you're always welcome here. She's like, okay, good. Thank you so much. And it's just really sweet to see them, because I know that, rules are different at different houses, and, we might be a little bit more strict on cleaning up after yourselves, but the overall general vibe, like they like being here. And I love that, because it feels like, I wouldn't ever want it to be an environment where they're not excited to be here. And I'm sure we'll go through those phases, over time. But for the most part, we have a safe, welcoming, warm home. And I think that's, what we want for them, because there is a lot of change and they do have to adjust a lot. And I don't give them enough credit for that, for sure. I know that, and I could do better at that, but they're pretty darn resilient.
And resilience in kids is really awesome to watch. I mean, and they do have to go through some challenging stuff in order to build that. So when we're helicoptering and following them around and making sure they don't get any bruises, we're really setting them up to be codependent and victims for all of their life.
Yep. Until they unlearn that. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That one is really hard for me, because it's hard for me to tell if I am indulging, my kids' feelings now that I'm in the space where I'm doing a lot more listening, because I wasn't 2 years ago. I wasn't listening. I was just giving commands and expecting them to follow them. And now it's like, okay, I'm listening. And are we getting into some manipulation here where you're feeling like you get to make me feel guilty about not giving you your way in this situation, and kind of getting into those territories as they're getting older. So
how old are they?
7 and 10.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's coming. Just kidding. Those are still fun ages.
Yeah, they're good. But they have, already played a little bit of the card of like, you're not giving me my way, so now I want to go to dad's.
Yep. I've heard that.
Yeah. So
now
it's
not your time to go to your dad's right now, but when it is.
Yeah. So that's where we're at.
It gets better, I promise.
I believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but also like asking my kids how they were feeling about the divorce, and like trying to walk them through whatever and not project any feelings, like not recommend any feelings to them.
That's hard.
Kind of a journey. Yeah.
Hard. Well, I mean, if they, feel like they can grieve the loss of that, that's helpful. I know that, some families aren't, like the moms and dads aren't willing to listen to that, but that's a big grief thing for the kids. I know our kids still struggle with it. And sometimes it's really hard to not take that personal, because I'm like, but I'm such an awesome bonus mom, but it has nothing to do with me. And I know that. So it makes it easier to listen when I remind myself of that. Because it is hard.
Yeah. We do forget. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So far, my kids have not revealed any sort of feelings like that. When I've asked, they're like, I don't know, it's fine. It's fine. I'm like, all right.
Well, and maybe it is. Maybe it
Yeah.
is. Everyone's different. Everyone processes different and feels different. So
yeah. It'll be interesting to see how it develops, as they're like that thing of getting their way coming into play. There, I'm imagining some struggles possibly moving forward in that realm.
You got this.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Well, there's many, many more things to talk about, but we're on our hour.
Yay.
Yeah, we did it. Internet troubles and all.
Woo! Unstable internet.
Yes.
All good.
All right. Well, we will be chatting soon again, I'm sure. Possibly more podcasts if that feels aligned. And it's great talking with you and getting to know you better today. Thank you.
Thank you, Reanna. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Bye.
All right. Take care.
You too.